Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is my first video, I hope the first of many to come. I'm really excited and I'm gonna start off immediately by cooking one of my favorite recipes. It's also one of my to-go recipes and it's a pasta sauce. We're gonna start with some tomatoes, we have some olives, a little bit of garlic, we're gonna use some spices along the way, and yeah, I'm gonna show you how I prepare my sauce. I start by peeling and cutting in half the garlic. You can cut it however you want. If you want it like finely chopped or you wanna leave it whole to take it out as a whole, I cut it in half because I think it gives a bit more taste. But I'm gonna fish it out just before putting the pasta in. This sauce is gonna make about 2 portions, so I'm gonna have this today and tomorrow for lunch, since it's isolation time and I'm living alone. So let's just cut it in half like this. You can leave the inside, I don't mind, because I'm gonna take it out anyway. I think for the small amount of time it's gonna stay in the pan, it doesn't really matter. And actually this is nearly the whole process. I mean, this is the whole work that you have to do, the rest is just in the pan. Okay, I'm gonna start off by putting some olive oil. I recommend using olive oil because it's flavorful. Just a little puddle on the bottom of the pan. And I'm gonna throw the garlic in, cut side down. I'm gonna put it on medium-high so that the oil comes up to temperature pretty good, and you just let it get warm and let the garlic fry a bit to get some flavor out. So our garlic has been frying a bit in the oil. We're just gonna check that it doesn't burn. It's nice and golden brown. I'm already gonna take it out before I put the tomato sauce in, just because I don't want to fish it out later, and I think it's done its purpose. Okay, so I'm just gonna use a can of tomato. I'm gonna puddle the oil like this so that it minimizes the splash. And you can see the pan is nice and hot. We still have some tomato left inside in the can, so I'm gonna rinse it with some tap water, because we always need to put a bit of water in the sauce so that it can cook for enough time without getting too dry. So tomato sauce is in. I'm gonna take a moment to explain the olives. These are Italian olives. They are my favorite kind to cook with. You can use any type of olive you want. Also for the tomato, if you want a more chunky tomato sauce, you can use just regular chopped tomatoes. These are really like fine tomato sauce. Yeah. These olives, they are a bit more bitter than your regular green olives. They are like kind of green brownish. So while my sauce is cooking down and reducing a bit, I put a pan with some breadcrumbs on the side. I'm just gonna toast them lightly, just make them become a bit crispy and golden brown, because in this recipe I'm not gonna use any cheese at the end. I'm gonna sprinkle the breadcrumbs on top, which in Italy, it's some recipes they use this type of topping instead of parmesan or grana. So yeah, in a minute I will be adding some sugar to the sauce and my olives. You want to add the olives kind of at the end, because otherwise they'll go overcooked and they're gonna break down too much. I kind of want to keep the shape of them, so they taste a lot better. So you can see my breadcrumbs are becoming nice and golden brown. Okay, so the sauce is starting to come to the end. My breadcrumbs are nice and toasted. I'm gonna put a bit of sugar inside, just a pinch, doesn't need to be too much. Just a little bit. And with a spoon we're gonna put some olives in. can put how many you want, there's no real measure for it. Also for the amount of, like the quality of tomato that you want to use, doesn't really matter. You can use, these are probably like regular tomato. But you can use San Marzano, you can use cherry tomatoes, break them down. This just makes it easier and it makes it a bit faster to finish the sauce. You know what, I'm gonna put them all, since it's a 2-portion sauce, I'm gonna put all of them. I like to use these olives also because they come in oil and not in a brine, which I think gives them a weird flavor sometimes. I'm not gonna salt the sauce yet, I'm just gonna still make it go a bit. You see how thick it has become? We just let it go maybe 5 minutes and then we can put some salt, some pepper. Okay, the sauce is basically done. I'm gonna leave it like that because I want to coat the pasta very well afterwards. And I can always reduce it when the pasta is inside. I'm gonna add some salt to taste. You can put how much you want. I'm gonna put some black pepper. Also how much you want. Remember that this is a 2-portion sauce, so if it looks a lot, it might not be enough sometimes. So you have to taste the sauce. I kind of know already the measurements because I've been doing this so often. And today I think I'm just gonna add a little bit of basil in the sauce. Usually you can add some oregano, which is probably traditional with this type of sauce because it's a very light sauce, but I like to put a bit of basil today. I like to use frozen basil. I usually buy a batch of fresh basil. I wash it and I freeze it. Since I live alone, I don't get to use like a whole plant, so this makes sense to me and it's really easy to use. Now that the sauce is ready, I'm gonna take about half of it out, let it cool and put it in my fridge so that I can eat it tomorrow. And I'm just gonna leave a bit in the pan that I can just use today, because I like this pan to saute my pasta in the end. I'm gonna show you how I do it, the whole process. Today I'm in the mood for spaghetti, but you can use penne, you can use rigatoni, fusilli, whichever pasta you want. This sauce is so versatile. My water is boiling. I'm gonna season it with some salt, because if you're gonna put the pasta in just water without salt, it's gonna taste like nothing. So you really want to put some salt in the water. It doesn't have to be half a kilo, just enough to season the pasta. And I'm just gonna eyeball the quantity of spaghetti that I want. While the water is gonna hydrate the pasta, the spaghetti is gonna become soft, of course. And that moment we can start applying it in the water, so that it's fully submerged. And you don't need to put oil in the water at this point because there's gonna be enough water for it not to stick to each other. You just have to move it a bit at the beginning, but don't feel the need to waste any oil on that. It's not necessary. I'm starting to pat down the pasta a bit because it's becoming soft, because I don't want one end to be cooking for too long while the other one is sticking out. You can just use the same spoon you use for the sauce. You can just use it to put the pasta down a bit, because now it's soft enough not to break. As you can see, nothing snapped. I'm gonna put the lid back on and just let it come up to a boil. And this pasta has to cook for 10 minutes. I'm gonna take it out at 8, because you don't want the pasta to cook in the water all the way, because it's gonna continue cooking while we put it in the sauce, while we plate it. So by the time we take it out of the water and we eat it, it's gonna be the perfect texture. Okay, so my pasta has been in the water for about 8 minutes now. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take a coffee cup and take some of the water, because this water is full of starches. As you might have experienced, it gets a bit cloudy. Those are the starches released by the pasta. And we can keep it for later when we put the pasta in the sauce. We put a bit of the water, it's gonna help with the creamy texture of it. So I will drain the pasta right now and put the sauce back on the stove. Okay, so I'm gonna heat up my sauce a bit. As you see, there's a little bit less than before, about half. And as soon as it gets warm, I'm gonna throw in my pasta and start bonding the sauce together with the pasta. Alright, here we go. I'm gonna start mixing it right away. As you can see, the sauce is still a bit runny, but it's way more thick than when we started, of course. I'm gonna reduce it now even more just by making the pasta go in. As you can see, it has a really nice color. There's a good amount of olives. We have our basil leaf. I'm gonna add a little bit of the water just on the side. Probably, I don't know, about a tablespoon worth. 1 or 2 tablespoons of water. As you see, it's thinning out the sauce a bit, but it's gonna become nice and creamy. For me, it needs maybe 30 more seconds and we're done and we can start plating. Again, this recipe is so easy to make. You basically need just 2 pots. One for the sauce and to saute the pasta, and one to cook the pasta in. And you just need a knife to cut the garlic. The rest you don't really need. The prep is very little. You can even start the cooking while you're prepping the ingredients. Okay. For me, that's the right spot. I'm gonna take the pasta off the heat and I'm gonna start plating. Our pasta is ready. The sauce is nice and thick. And let's see, I learned this trick a long time ago. Let's see if I can still do it. To have a really nice nest of pasta, you can just spin the plate under. Alright. Put a bit more. I guess now we can just put it on top. Make sure nothing is falling down. Alright. Okay, don't forget to add up some olives on the top. You can use a bit of the sauce, there's always a bit left over. And final touch, I'm gonna put a bit of the breadcrumbs on top. And there we go. I'm gonna have a bit of breadcrumbs on the side because I don't want them to get soggy, that's why I didn't mix them before. But for me, the pasta now is nicely covered, and if I feel I need a bit more, I can just add it up later. Again, you can swap out the ingredients for whatever you want. Basil, instead of the basil you can use the oregano, you can use other type of olives, you can use cheese instead of breadcrumbs. Of course, you can put, maybe leave the garlic in the sauce. So on that note, I'm gonna finish this video. I hope you enjoyed this, I hope you make this recipe, and till next time.